Seems like we are live. So if there's any problems or anything, then I'm sure I'll be sort of notified, but I'll just say hello. Okay, so welcome to another Creative Industries Masterclass. My name's Soraya Lempsteff, and you're going to be sort of thinking about documentary shorts, documentary practice over the next 40 or so minutes, and then I'm very happy to take questions afterwards. Okay, let's begin. So, Jean-Luc Godard, I can't see your questions at the moment, unfortunately. So I do tend to ask quite a few, so I appreciate you can't answer. But if you've come to this masterclass, and hopefully you're either a beginner filmmaker, or you're interested in filmmaking, or you could be intermediate or established. But whatever the case, hopefully you'll be able to pick up some points during the session, and hopefully you'll know who Jean-Luc Godard is. So he's a new wave French filmmaker, and he said photography is truth and cinema is truth 24 times per second. So that 24 times per second is referring to 24 frames per second, so individual photographs that make up a second of film, which we will return to later on. So before we start talking about documentary, I'll introduce myself, so you're assured of credibility. So who am I? My name's Soraya Lempsteff. I'm a lecturer on the Moving Image Production course at Hugh Baird University Centre, and we offer degrees through the University of Central Lancashire. I'm hugely enthusiastic about film. I've got over 25 years industry experience. I was formerly a third assistant director, but now I've retrained to be a script supervisor. I'm a visual artist, so I work in the Tate Gallery as a lead creative, and I've exhibited in the Tate and also Banksy's Dismal Land, using video as a medium. And I was formerly a producer working in film distribution with Master Cinema, BFI, Criterion New York, and currently Indicator Films. So let's crack on. Right, so documentary practice. With the growing overlap between journalism and non-fiction filmmaking, documentary shorts have become increasingly powerful showcase for critical real-world stories. Easily accessible and shareable online, non-fiction filmmaking has a greater potential to have a far-reaching impact than ever before. And there's more and more filmmakers being drawn to the genre now. And this has only improved the quality, subject matter, and level of artistic risk-taking. And I think actually Netflix is huge, is hugely responsible for the accessibility and the interest in well, the human condition, really. So this year's Oscars, which were held the concept of time is strange during lockdown. A few weeks ago, we saw the best documentary feature went to My Octopus Teacher, which made everybody on Gogglebox cry. But there were 5 other contenders for best documentary short. And a short is anything under like 40, I think technically 43 minutes. Anything over that is considered a feature. So the nominated short films tackled devastating humanitarian crises, urgent political movements, and deep-rooted social justice causes. So documentaries inform and reflect the public psyche. And these last 2 years have been, I'm sure you've noticed, have been like no other in terms of single issues, affecting us all on a global scale. We've had the pandemic, still have the pandemic, climate crisis, political and democratic movements, specifically Me Too, Black Lives Matter, climate change, and if you saw the Hong Kong democratic protests. So those in themselves, it shows you what people are interested in and what people don't get to experience firsthand. Of course, we can't travel and we can't see and we can't be in the, in the sort of in the center of it, but we can still feel and we can still sympathize and empathize and hopefully be informed. And documentaries, do that for us in a sense. So those ones mentioned, they're really good examples of subjects covered by documentary shorts at the moment. But what is a documentary and how do you make one and how do they come into being? So let's, during this short session, let's look at a bit of history, and then types of documentary, and then how to structure your documentary, and then also elements to consider, what to include, and let's finish with a code of ethics that you should hold dear when you're undertaking this. Okay, so documentary, a short history. Okay, you can keep count, by the way. I've put lots of different images in from films, and if you keep a score and award yourself points. So this is going to kind of look at Mitchell and Kenyon, who were the pioneers of social documentary. So Mitchell and Kenyon were the world's first true documentarians. They were founded in 1897 in Blackburn. The company was one of the largest film producers throughout the whole of the 1900s, with the slogans of, I'm not even going to do the accent, I nearly did the accent, local films for local people, we take them and we make them. They filmed life with normal people doing normal everyday things. And the films taken during the day were shown in the same evening in like fairground tents or local meeting halls with slogans like, see yourselves as others see you. So the first commission was to film workers leaving a factory, which is why this genre is known as factory gate or factory gate films. Okay, so I'm speaking to you from Liverpool. So interestingly, in terms of like, I don't know, cinematic history, really, or cinematic structural history, Mitchell and Kenyon's most innovative film was The Arrest of Godey in 1901. So it was the world's first filmed crime reconstruction, and it was filmed in Liverpool. It depicts the arrest of Thomas Godey, who was a Bank of Liverpool employee, and he embezzled like £170,000, which in 1901 is a ridiculous amount. It's a ridiculous amount now. But Mitchell and Kenyon used the actual crime locations, and they went back and they shot it, and they had lots of people kind of looking around thinking, what's this going on? And then they showed it in the Prince of Wales Theatre in Liverpool just 3 days after Godey's arrest. Godey was subsequently jailed for 10 years for this. So moving forward beyond that, we're looking at types of documentarian, really, or the specific purposes. Now, just for time, I've cut quite a lot out of this, but I was going to show you some public information films, you know, from the 30s, 40s and 50s, where they were instructing people to behave in a certain way, or not to take currency abroad. And it was one of the earliest sort of examples of just a total fourth wall break as well. So where you're engaging and interacting with the viewer. And then there were also, I mean, what's his name? Harry Enfield. Mr. Cholmondeley Warner, he kind of parodies it when, you know, you have the very plummy voiced BBC voiceover, like narrator, saying, oh, look, these lovely girls, they won't get too fit, they don't sit alone for a long time, and accent's gone all over the place. But it was that kind of talking about subjectively about the person on the screen, not to them and not to you. So going forward and actually involving the people, as a subject and not objectifying them, we come to the documentarian as a social observer. So the grandfather of that was Al Maysles, part of the Maysles brothers. So Al Maysles and his brother David Maysles, they were American documentary filmmaking team known for their work in the direct cinema style. Okay, so they made over 30 films together, and the best known was Salesmen and Grey Gardens, two films that I worked on, very privileged to work on when I worked for Masters Cinema for UK release. And we worked with Al Maysles shortly before he died, and he was an incredible man. And also they did Give Me Shelter. So Salesman documents the work of a group of door-to-door Bible salesmen, and Grey Gardens is about Big Edie and Little Edie, who are hoard eccentric cousins of Jackie Kennedy, and they were living in a dilapidated mansion in the Hamptons. So the Maysles pioneered what we understand as, to be like kind of the Louis Theroux approach, where you not just ingratiate yourself, but you live with your subjects, and you sort of gently sort of elicit information from them, so they're comfortable in their own space, and then you get the truest sense of who they are. So this allows them to be comfortable, and it documents them in their own environment. So it's wider information. So yeah, it's just getting the best and not dictating what happened next, really. So we'll just see a little trailer from Grey Gardens.
It's very difficult to keep the line between the past and the present. You know what I mean? It's awfully difficult.
I suppose I won't get out of here till she dies or I die.
Who is she? This is the worst one of my wedding pictures.
The others look worse. And she looked like a girl that had everything.
It was in a fashion show.
I thought it was the cat's pajamas in there. I missed out on everything. I was stuck here with Mother, the cat, the house, and T. Logan.
Everything's good that you didn't do. At the time, you didn't want it. The cat's going to the bathroom, right in back of my portrait.
God, isn't that awful?
No, I'm glad he is. I'm glad somebody's doing something they want to do.
Good Lord.
The relatives didn't know that they were dealing with a staunch character. And another thing, Mrs. Beale wasn't taken care of sexually.
Now I'll have to get drinking. I'll have to start drinking. I can't take it.
And you can always take off the skirt and use it as a cape. So I think this is the best costume for the day.
Brilliant. Staunch character indeed. So if you haven't seen it before, then please make a beeline and watch it. If you've seen it before, watch it again. I feel like I want to again following this. It's incredible, really. I think other documentarians might have I don't know, exposed them a little bit more, or I don't know, not have treated them as gently, really. So it's incredible. So their other key film is Gimme Shelter. Exploited, that's the word I was searching for in my head. Exploitation, yeah. So Gimme Shelter, 1970. So it's a key moment in reactive filmmaking, recording events as they unfold naturally and spontaneously, rather than investigating the subject matter through documentary techniques such as interviews, reconstruction, and voiceover. I mean, those are the kind of set parameters. That's what we're used to. But reactive filmmaking is where you don't sort of get involved in a way. A little side point. So a friend of mine he's a DP, director of photography, and he said that one of his friends was working on an Attenborough, documentary about, I think it was The Blue Planet, where they were filming the penguins, and there was like 33 baby penguins that got trapped under the ice and were just left to die. And he said that he struggled with this, and he asked the cameraman, what did he do? And he said, we just had to leave them. So that's an example of reactive filmmaking, because you just have to let nature quite literally take its course. So Gimme Shelter is a film about the Rolling Stones, 1969 US tour. So I won't show you a clip because it's actually quite distressing, but please feel free to go out and research it yourself. So it's the US tour, 1969. The Rolling Stones are absolutely, ahead of the game, really. And at the end of the massive American tour, they had the Altamont Free concert. So the Maisels unexpectedly captured an altercation between a festival attendee and a Hells Angel who was working security. So the Hells Angels were on security all day, drinking, taking barbiturates and everything, just, you know, just ready for the slightest of kickoffs, really. And this Hells Angel, Alan Pissarro, saw this this man called Hunter, and he stabbed him to death, and it was caught on film. So the film footage later shows Hunter was actually drawing and pointing his gun towards Pissarro just before being stabbed. And that in itself, the jury used the footage in order, you know, to acquit the Hells Angel of murder on self-defense. So, you know, there are sort of ethical, moral implications there, but the fact that he caught it and didn't intervene is quite interesting. So let's just move on quickly before we actually get to how you structure your documentary. We're looking at documentary as political activists. So you can't mention this without mentioning Nick Broomfield. So Nick Broomfield is the son of Liverpool. What he says here is really key to you know, an excellent approach to making documentaries. He said, don't make something you call a documentary really constructed, that doesn't have that spontaneous energy or that quest for reality. That's what I like to see. Even if the film doesn't work particularly well, as an audience member, you're seeing this world that you don't necessarily know anything about. And that's why we watch documentaries, because they're giving us insight. We're going into people's homes, we're into their minds, their lives, everything. And it's really kind of a privileged position. So he and himself, Nick Broomfield, as you can see, he's got a Nagra there, and he's got his microphone, he's got his earphones, and he'll have a camera as well. He's hugely, hugely influential, and he works in what's called the direct style when doing scripted drama with non-actors. So he does do plays and things, but from his many documentaries, is known as having the self-reflective style. So Broomfield generally works with a minimal crew, and he records the sound himself, as I pointed out there, using 1 or 2 camera operators. And he's often seen in the finished film as well, usually holding the sound booth, wearing the NAG recorder. You can't escape kind of mirror shots and things like that. But he's in the frame sometimes, but he's just facilitating it, really. He's just encouraging. And I think that's a key thing. So if you're thinking about a documentary short, and if you're starting off from like a base level, you really just got yourself, and you might be using people who you know already, who are already familiar with you, and there's a established dynamic there. So if you can operate a couple of pieces of equipment, or at least put like I don't know, a Zoom mic or something on the table to pick up the sound, and then you're filming, then that's really is a lovely intimate approach. Then people won't feel the hard glare of the lens as well. That puts everybody off. Okay, so let's just see a trailer for his rent strikes film. Again, Liverpool-centric, or Kirby-centric, really.
I have different concepts of democracy now, as I'm sure many other people involved in this rent strike have different concepts of what democracy is supposed to be. I mean, what is a country without its people? And the majority of this people in this country are hard working class people. I mean, how many of the working class are actually working at something that they want to do? And here's a piece of bloody repressive legislation directed at their homes, their families, the way they live, the roof over their heads. The husband works God knows how many hours to get a pittance. The only people who can change the working class position are the working class themselves. I know it could change, in actual fact. The working class position could change, but it won't change through the media. Those who are prepared to work for it will find a better quality of life. And if we all pull together and all pull our belts in, all produce more productivity, put you back into it, and it'll be a better life for all of us. What that means in working class terms is work bloody harder than you are already doing.
Okay. So that was 1979. and I don't see what she was talking about has changed in any way, shape or form. So that was very interesting. She was giving voice to the people who don't really have that platform usually. And at the start of that documentary, actually, this lady who went on to be a local councillor, she said to Nick Broomfield, she said, you know, nothing's going to change, Nick. You're here just to get just for your film, just for yourself. You're not even here for us. You know, this is just entertainment for you. And that's what she said. But what happened was he documented I should really preface it. So in Kirby, behind the rent strike, there was so much dilapidation and just a horrible, horrible living conditions that people banded together and stopped paying the rent until these issues, these problems were sort of resolved. And then they got the landlords got the police involved, and it was just a mayhem. But actually, what it did was it affected change. So we've got a lot of laws and everything that protect us as tenants, and also protect landlords as well from that happening again. And it was off the back of this documentary being screened that kind of change started affecting. So you see, you do have a responsibility, but you do have like a power really. If you make documentaries, you allow people to speak their mind and tell all about their terrible situation, and you know, good things do come from it. So to read this out, to the documentary director, the appearance of things and people is only superficial. It's the meaning behind the thing and the significance underlying the person that occupies attention. So it's like if you're doing fine art or a painting, there's aesthetics and nothing without content. Everything has to be ideas driven. That's the difference really between meaningful documentaries and just the rubbish on Channel 5, because it's just all surface, while other things actually mean something. Which brings us to other types of documentary. So let's just touch on these. Talking to Channel 5. Sensationalist, editorial bias in mass media. Now, I'm literally just going to mention this. We're not going to even focus on it because we need to kind of, crack on with the structure in the documentary. But just ask yourself, who are these people? Who are they? Where are they now? You probably recognise 2 or 3 of them, maybe 5 of them, because you name them. Well, they were all mostly winners, were certainly finalists of Big Brother from years gone by. So this is where there's a kind of a fusion now of documentary and reality TV, really. So you're talking really about what is true documentation, what is the truth, and for what purpose. And, what you have to question people's motivations for wanting to be seen on screen as well. So Andy Warhol called it very much kind of, he's misquoted really, but in the future, everybody will be world famous for 15 minutes. So this celebrated quote has become Warhol's most known statement, and it led to the concept of 15 minutes of fame, which is the idea that celebrity, from media scandals to memes, will almost always be fleeting. So as things have turned out, the rise of celebrity culture and reality TV in the Western world since then has shown Warhol to be quite prophetic in his vision. So the rise of social media has turned his prophecy into fact. And topics may be trending on social media and receiving worldwide attention and be huge, and then literally 24 hours later, or 15 minutes later in terms of screen time, they cease trending and to be forgotten about. So if there was like a huge story, how long would you spend reading about it before you just scroll down to something else? So it's that kind of prescience and permanence of ideas that makes it important and long lasting, which is why you have to have integrity in your work, really. But it's also a sad indictment that something can be really quite huge, but then like literally not matter, but it still matters. To the individual, the days, the weeks, the years that followed, and sometimes it matters and can have like a really terrible effect on them as well. Right, so Andy Warhol what informed his idea really was, it was kind of a swapping of making celebrity elite status, you know, commodifiable. Like that's why he did the 4 images of Marilyn, because you know you can just have it anywhere, you can repeat it. But with Campbell's suit, which is something just like a unit, something quite utilitarian, he painted a huge canvas and put it into a gallery. So it was a swapping idea, which was quite interesting. So just to sort of specify what the difference is between true documentary and sensationalism. Sensationalism is intentionally omitting facts and information, and it's misrepresentation and exaggeration. So you want to steer clear from that, which is why I hate Channel 5. So these constantly purport to deliver human interest stories, but interest to whom, really? You know, insights again to people's lives. But I think they have got an agenda against the North, to be honest, because every time you see anything, any kind of attack on somebody, it always seems to be quite northern. So here you've got, I mean, if you've never heard of this before and you've never seen it, you could tell where she's from. Who needs a man when you've got spray tan, single mum and proud? I'm a boss single mum. Clearly, using that kind of vernacular from Liverpool. Banged up abroad as well, about people going, you know, and sort of getting into trouble in the police. And then Benefit Street. I actually did watch Benefit Street, and you could read between the lines that you know, that there was excellent parenting happening, and there was kind of real love and affection. Yes, there was struggle, but there was, you know, kind of keeping themselves up and rising through the face of adversity. But what was shown and what was cut was, you know, exploitative, really. So sensationalist documentary practice is ethics, voyeurism, objectification, perceived truth, Schadenfreude TV. If you don't know what Schadenfreude is, it's the taking, you know, it's taking delight in other people's downfall, which is horrible. Unless that person is, what's his name, Jeremy Kyle or Richard Madeley. So no longer about uniting and informing the people, it's more about humiliation really. So rockumentary is a lovely form of documentary. It's specialist because it's about the musicians and it's the bands. As you can see, Kurt Cobain here and Sound City, which is the Dave Grohl one. Stop Making Sense, one of my favourite ones. And what it does is it kind of documents a time and a place when, you know, before an amazing album was created. And it's also people who are no longer with us, like none of these people here, Daniel Johnson, Tupac, B.I.G., you know, and the guy from Association. It gives a deeper insight into the artist during the most creative or vulnerable period, and allows us audience there, when you know, to look back on as if they're still there. So, and the mockumentary, which you all recognise, that's something else entirely. So let's crack on. So what we're talking about there, and touching on those, it's kind of a grey area when you're thinking about truth. So if you don't opt for those, and if you do opt for making a documentary short in its purest sense, then there are kind of strict parameters you need to work between in order to get your best work. So let me just check on the time. Oh my God. So making the documentary short, structuring your documentary. All right then. So this is this girl, she makes films by herself, and it's just such a simple premise. She asks one question to lots of strangers, and if you see in the background doesn't really move. She's just got a kind of shallow focus. She's framed it perfectly, so it's all about the face, all about the story, and not what's going on behind. And she asks these people one question. She's got a series of questions. It's cheap, it's easy to make, and it's quite brilliant. So this question is, what's one stranger you remember? So we'll just watch 2 minutes of this.
This girl I met on the airplane, she was blind, and she couldn't see outside at the sky and the sunset that was going on, but she felt the heat of it, so she would just ask me what it looked like, so I had to describe it to her. So I remember her because I appreciate sight because of her. One time I was working part-time as an Uber driver, and I picked up this man who was from Vietnam. Somehow, it's been kind of a long time, but I remember him telling me how many people died, Vietnamese died in the Vietnam War, and how he, because of what had happened, he had to go to training, and like right when he was done with training was like the second they stopped the war, so he didn't have to go. And the whole time was this story he was telling me on the way to where I was taking him to his destination. He said, you know, sometimes people are very lucky. I was a very lucky man. And he said, sometimes not so lucky. And I was dropping him off at a cancer center. And I don't know why, but it just touched me so much that he shared that with me. And it's always stuck with me. And he was a very lovely man. And I'll always remember him to this day. I just wish that I had stayed with him because I don't think anyone was there with him for his cancer treatment. That's what I wish to this day.
I was in Pompeii, and this older Italian couple was there just as some tourists looking at the Pompeii ruins, and they saw that we were Americans, and they came up to me just out of the blue, and they said, "Are you American?" And I said, "Yes." And they were like, threw their arms around me and said, "Thank your grandparents. You saved our lives. We've always loved Americans for what you did for us after World War II." And as a young American, I never really realized the impact that America had on Europe at that time. But to that day, the hug from those old people I didn't even know just because we were Americans, to this day has been with me. So
I remember I saw this this homeless man and his two daughters in this alcove in Chicago one night. I'll just always remember it, wishing I could do something more, wishing I would have done something.
Okay, so as you can see there, she does Earth Array. She does a lot of different. I think 14 million people watched her question, where it was, "What's the most painful thing you've ever been told?" And that's quite a bind to watch. But 14 million, so that just indicates the interest in it really, and the simplicity of the format. So key pointers, it's just like bullet pointing. So find your subject. I mean, that sounds obvious, but that's within that, it's also discount what your subjects are. Don't be too ambitious. Maybe it is better just to be quite simple, because your variables really are your people. Just having one question and just approaching people, you're going to have a whole range of different answers. Okay, so double check your facts. That's really crucial, because you don't want to commit something to celluloid. You don't want to commit something on screen if it's not factual. I mean, the whole sort of debacle and the furore around anti-vaxxers, that all started from one Census Grace doctor making a documentary about there being a link for, to autism in children, presenting in children from having an MMR vaccine. And it just turned out, I mean, that was completely discredited. It was based on 10 children, and the children would stop presenting at that age anyway. But that has gone around the world on the back of that short documentary. So you do have a responsibility to check your facts there. Tonality. So ensure there's ebb and flow. You don't want to sort of give everybody everything that they need at the start and then just kind of fizzle, or slow build. If you think about your favorite kind of series that you watch on, on Netflix or something, you'll have like 2 really good episodes, and then you'll have a bit of a quiet one, maybe another one, and then you have like a big killer one, and then amazing loads of action, and then that's the ebb and flow, unless your line of duty in the final episode's rubbish. But that's what you need to do, because it engages the viewer and it allows them into a kind of like pattern of questioning as well. All right, so is your viewer engaged? It's not the 1940s public information film. You're not talking at them. You're not even really talking to them. You're speaking with them, engaging their minds, really. Okay, so, see, where are we? Okay, yeah, keep it simple to allow the narrative to progress naturally. Remember, you're not directly involved in it. It's the best approach, really, just to kind of let it subtly happen. And then it's all about the editing process later on as well. So what is it that you want to say? Do you have an agenda or a cause? Is there something that I have a third-year student who's doing his final film on you know, ecology and just the terrible situation out of the world in right now, because he has something to say, and he's become vegan over the last 3 years, and so he's really passionate about it. But even he knows if you're very passionate about something, you can actually be quite biased in your approach. So you have to kind of pull back. It's almost like a documentary is like writing an essay. So with an essay, you can have your opinion, but what you need to do is invite that person to speak. What's your kind of informed opinion on that, and then find somebody that counters that argument as well. And what you're effectively doing is you're almost like the person in question time that says, great, wonderful, let's hear from you. Right, lovely, let's hear from you now. And that's what you're doing. You're producing kind of a balanced, reasoned argument, whether it's an interview panel, or it's an essay, or it's a documentary. A documentary is like a visual essay. So it needs introduction, core bit in the end, and then conclusion or thoughts for the future. Right, okay, so very quickly, your technical considerations, that's super important once you've got your core down. Okay, sound, oh my God, sound. So I had a graphic and that I use quite frequently, and it's David Lynch saying, you know, sound and visuals are 50% of your film. Sometimes the sound overrides the visuals because it's more important. What he means to say is that you can get away with crappy visuals if because you can put it down to you know, artistic choice. Sound, you cannot. I was speaking to a programmer for a film festival, Aesthetica Film Festival, and he told me that when he gets thousands of entries, if the sound is compromised in any way, he won't even watch it. It's that important. And to the end, we'll just watch this in a minute.
So for Bond Street Coffee, it's like everyone, it's been a challenging time, but we've always wanted to stay there for our guests and for our clients. So, you know, we've got a lot of regulars who come to the shop, so we've always tried to keep everyone happy. So we just tried to make sure that we had something for people to do. You know, the current ethos for this one is just to give people a little bit of normality and just something that can brighten up the day a little bit. We've never really done a delivery service before, so we've always been a takeaway service. You can still come in, we change the shop around so that you can just come and grab your normal Bond Street Coffee items, but we've just started launching a online shop where we're going to deliver things like equipment, some ground coffee, some more merchandise, a few other items that are going to go up on there, so that's all going to be available online soon. We're going to do weekly deliveries, hopefully on a Friday, and personally delivered by one of the directors in store. Obviously, Bond Street's normally pretty much the heartbeat of the city for a lot of us, like so many independents, so many places to go, but then every time it happens, you know, you just see the footfall completely die. It's strange when you're in there because we can still try and keep the atmosphere going. We get the music on the go. We've got people coming through the door. Everyone's chatting and having a laugh. But as soon as you leave, it's silence. You know, it's like tumbleweed falling down the streets. So it's nice that we can still do this. That we can still have a little bit of personality on the street. We're just trying to do our thing. You know, we're just trying to make people smile every day. We're giving stuff out to people. We're trying to just get to know all of our guests. We're trying to just speak to everyone that comes through the door. Be a bit more personable. We're not just looking at turning around and kicking you out. You know, you're here for a good time, and we're all just here for a good time. You know, we want to make sure that we can just brighten up your day a little bit, whether it's like a little cheeky pastry on the side, or just like a hello or a happy birthday, or how's you doing? Yeah. You know, just little things, just to give people something else when you're cooped up in the house and you're not speaking to anyone. It's nice to just come and see a little smiling face, even if it's behind the mask. Yeah, 100%. So finally, then, Harry, how important is it for, you know, people to be supporting you guys and all the?
Okay, we'll crack on now. So as you can see, there's lots of beautiful cutaways there. So, you know, you've got the backbone really of the interview, which was pretty much done in one take. And so that whole thing, that would have been filmed and, you know, done in a few hours, and it was only quite short. The documentarian obviously, or the filmmaker, made their voice heard, because normally your subjects might just want to start sentences with "I think," la la la, so it's complete sentences, so you don't need to preface it or hear the question coming in, because they're delivering a complete answer. If it's left in, it's because they haven't. Right, and lots of gorgeous cutaways, nice, you know, manual focus things, lovely, but it was completely ruined by the because he didn't use what's called a dead cat, fluffy thing that goes on, you know, the end of your blimp. sort of when you're recording your sound. So in that way, that's kind of ruined, because when his voice, he's being interviewed and his voice is carrying, and when you've got the cutaways of the inside of the shop, you're hearing wind inside the shop, which jars that shouldn't be, right? So framing, as we saw with the Ask a Stranger, just focus. If you just frame completely and you don't busy with everything that's going around, like even then, he was in front of Bold Street shop. I think he should have been in front of a sign, so it's just him and the sign, because otherwise you get distracted and you walk around. But it's just, you know, was it you see the soul through the eyes, the honesty in people's eyes. That's why the way kind of she framed it perfectly. So yeah, focus on your subject's words. So if you're doing a straightforward interview, say if you interviewed somebody in your family, like an older member of your family, and they're sitting in a chair, and they start talking about maybe, you know, younger days, and to illustrate those points, you would go to the mantelpiece and show the photographs, and then cut back to them. Obviously, you'd film them completely, doing the interview, and then taking the note of what they've spoken about. You take these little shots, these cutaways, and then you illustrate it. But be careful when you're editing not to cut away if you miss emotion on their face, because communication is 90% body language. So if somebody, I worked in a film called Shower, which was a 9.5-hour Holocaust documentary by Claude Lanzmann, and I made a trailer for them, and, you know, 14 languages, 8 years in the making. How do you possibly make a trailer for that? So I ended up just having shots of people's emotion in the face, just really kind of looking, and you can tell so much from that. Okay, so we've only got a couple of minutes left. Big reveal, don't reveal too much. You want a twist. You want to find out about Carol Baskin at the end, not at the start. So allow the subject, the platform, to speak the truth. Don't dictate in any way, shape or form, and just, you know, sort of establish a relationship with them, really, and so they feel comfortable enough to speak. And impartiality is key, which brings us to your code of ethics, which is where we'll finish. So just think in your minds, right, just for a second, what gives filmmakers the right to film these people? Okay. It's the subjects themselves. So if it's the subjects themselves that give the people the right to film them, then who has the full editorial control and who has the final say? Right. Oh, actually, I'll say a point on that. I was trying to get I was doing something with Alex Riley from The One Show, and he came into Hugh Baird as one of our week-long masterclasses, like tech workshops, which was brilliant. And we were filming somebody from the largest cranes in the world or something outside of China are actually in Liverpool in the docks, and we were interviewing somebody who was the head of the Maritime Museum, and I secured the interview, but I flustered last second, and I said to the lead curator, I said, oh yes, of course, you'll have a full editorial control. And I put the phone down, and Alex Riley said to me, you never give people full editorial control. I was like, okay, I panicked. He said, you had the interview, why did you say that? It's like, I don't know. I think I've seen it on films. I don't know why I said it. But yeah, so that compromised us, to be honest. So, you know, live and learn literally every day. So code of ethics, your big three. Director must not interfere with the life path of the subject. Think of the penguins. The filmmakers cannot pay the subjects for their use in the film, because then they might be accused of being financially motivated to take part. And finally, all parties involved with the film story must be given the opportunity to represent themselves wholly. So at the start of the session, Jean-Luc Godard said, photography is truth, cinema is truth 24 times a second. But he went on to say, every cut is a lie. So think about that when you're editing, really. So edit truthfully. So what is your truth? And I think that is it. We are done. Ooh, there might be nobody left to take questions, but we are completely done now. Okay. All right, so end of session. Do we have any? Oh, question from Claire. Okay, sorry, I didn't see this. I've got two screens. Okay, so I want to get into film studies. What's the best way to get into it? You mentioned a degree course. Well, absolutely. I would be foolish if I didn't take this opportunity to say, a degree course. So, yeah, so Hugh Baird University Centre in Broomfield. Where are you based, Claire, by the way? You're still there. Well, Hugh Baird, we have a multi-million-pound building, and we have 3 tutors, myself, Del Pike, and Dr. Matthew Smith, and we teach moving image production. Our backgrounds, their backgrounds are screenwriting, but we're all technical, and as screenwriters, we're very much steeped. And I worked for obviously Master Cinema and the BFI. Very much steeped in film studies, cinematic history. Absolutely love it, because you need to understand what's gone on before in order to inform your technical practice, really. So I think our course is quite unique in that we're a student-centred approach. We also have quite small class sizes, so you have a lot of one-on-one support. There's some excellent courses around the country. I've come from UCLan, and we had hundreds on the course, and it was quite difficult to sort of get around everybody. But I do think that our course is brilliant, and it's definitely film studies, but it's also teaching you how to become independent filmmakers, small crews, really chasing the story with that. So Liverpool, brilliant. Yes, well, drop us a line, Laura. We'd love to talk to you. Okay, so James asks, I'm interested in the course, but I have no equipment at the moment. Do I need equipment for the course, or is this provided? It's 100% provided. And we are in the middle of creating a DAD room. So it's one of those rooms that's it's completely sound secure. So in first year, you do a year-long sound for the moving image module. Did I mention sound's important? It's so important. And so we're creating like a Foley, so you can do all your own sound effects. You can do ADR, which is called additional dialogue replacement. So you do all your voiceovers. And also we have like mixing desks, so it's like sound, sort of a sound engineer's mixing desk, but we level up the sounds within that. We have all 4K cameras, dollies, like audio equipment. I mean, it's I think for your own mind, then maybe if you wanted to get your own equipment, it doesn't have to be brand new. Secondhand is excellent. We can advise you on that. And then you always have it. But otherwise, we will lend you equipment. And as I say, our classroom sizes are quite small. So it's almost like private in a way. This is what I always say to the first years. I was like, it's like being privately educated, because they just have total support all the time. I remember when I was doing my degrees, you assess a brief and then that was it. See you in 6 weeks. But we're there constantly throughout. So David asks, how long is the course and how many days a week does it run for? Well, props to the people who schedule it. It's a full-time course, but you're scheduled in for 2 days a week. So that means you can work jobs elsewhere, which a lot of our students do work. We have mature students as well who work in panoply of different kind of jobs. But it's great because for first years, for example, first years are in Tuesdays and Wednesdays all day. And you have everything. You have introduction to narrative, contextual studies, sound for the moving image, professional practice, contemporary practice, all of that just on those 2 days. And we're available throughout the rest of the week, for you to come and see us. There's a really lovely relationship between first, second and third year because we're all based in the same studio, all Mac based, but obviously we use cross-platform software because it's all Adobe. So if you had a PC or a laptop, you could use the same software. But it's great because I've seen, and I've actually, studied on my MA courses. They were both supposed to be full-time, but they were like bitty here, there and everywhere, so you couldn't really settle into it. Okay, so, and it's 32 weeks for an academic year. So you start this, first week of September, and then officially you end June 18th, but your last hand-in is May the 21st. So if everything's in, well, actually, first year's last hand-in is May the 14th. So you're September to May the 14th, and then you're off having jollies, coming back refreshed for second year. So final question, do you have places left for September? Yes, actually we do, because we have more staff. So so we could actually run 2 courses of first years. Yes, so you apply, I should know this, so you can actually write to us, and then we would forward you on to the people who you could apply through. But if you drop us an email, I'll put the email addresses in the bottom, then just come in and speak with us. The next 2 weeks, kind of crazy with third years, final films, exhibitions, all really exciting. Maybe that's the time for you to come in and visit. But yeah, we're happy to talk to you anytime. But yeah, we'd love to see anyone who's interested. Thank you so much for listening. Okay.